Yeah, it's supposed to start at 3. We can push it back.
I'm Councilman Curran Price, pleased to welcome you to today's hearing of the Economic Development Committee. I'm joined by my colleagues Paul Krikorian, Paul Koretz, and Neri Martinez. We're expecting other members to join us shortly. We have 2 items on today's agenda, both dealing with the issue of increasing our citywide minimum wage. Over the next few months, I know we're going to have a robust debate on all aspects of this issue, from the procurement of a study to the economic impacts of the proposal, from how to implement the minimum wage to ways in which we should enforce it. For today, however, our focus is going to be on procuring a minimum wage study so that we can have some clear direction and give some clear direction to our CLA on what to include in the request for bids. As the 2 agenda items are related, we're going to take them up together. So, Mr. Clerk, would you please read the items?
Item number 1 is a motion Bonin, Buscaino, Forcedillo, Martinez, Price, Koretz, Krikorian, relative to a request to the city attorney to prepare and present an ordinance establishing a minimum wage for all employees within the city of Los Angeles that will increase over the next 3 years to $13.25 an hour on July 1st, 2017, with future increases after that date tied to the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers for the Los Angeles metropolitan area, and procurement of an independent study on raising the minimum wage after 2017 to $15.25 an hour and an economic impact on the city. Item number 2 is a motion O'Farrell, Blumenfield, Krikorian, Martinez, Wesson, for Fuentes, relative to an instruction to the CAO's Office of Economic Analysis with the assistance of the CLA and the Economic and Workforce Development Department to procure an economic analysis of the minimum wage proposal and include economic impacts, evaluation of the pros and cons of the categorical exemptions, and other impact mitigations for specific industries, and how the citywide minimum wage will be implemented, monitored, and enforced.
Okay, thank you. We're going to open up public comment. I know that there's some passion, a great passion on both sides of this issue. I'm going to ask you to keep your comments, though, to 1 minute or less. And if your comments mirror that of a previous, you may just say ditto. We're going to try to alternate between those in favor and those opposed. And first up, we have Jorge Carlillo.
Good afternoon, committee. Jorge Carlillo. I'm a Los Angeles resident. Lived downtown for the last 20 years. My business has been downtown for the last 31 years. And I'm here to testify in favor of the minimum wage because I'm a policy advocate since the 1970s. My academic background is that. I spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C., working with major legislators, regular meetings with Ben Bernanke, Sheila Bair, Thomas Curry, and other legislators on many economic development issues. And, we know the arguments in terms of bringing money into the community to support small business. Of course, there are some give and take with regards to this. However, if you look at numerous studies that have already been done, I know you're taking a look at some more, including the Regional Federal Reserve economists, the Congressional Budget Office, the Department of Labor, all of them without exception demonstrate that there is a major cutback to wages. Without that, we're seeing that the stagnation of small and medium business because we spend our monies in these locations.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
One last thing. I met with Tony Atkins, Speaker of the Assembly, last night. She mentioned that San Francisco and San Jose not long ago raised their minimum wage, and they have the lowest unemployment rates in the entire state.
Okay.
So I have more, but I know I'm out of time. But thank you very much.
You are. Thank you for your comments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sharon Brown, followed by Herb Shultz, followed by Carlos Montes, followed by Dante Atkins. Please.
Hi, I'm Sharon Brown of ICDC Publishing. We're a small woman-owned business and have been in business for over 25 years. ICDC, being a small intellectual property business, needs more certainty and protection in regards to remaining competitive. And increasing the minimum wage will help us find qualified job candidates and retain employees. Based on our research, cities that have raised their minimum wage higher than the states have experienced higher job growth when the economy was growing and slower layoffs when the economy was shrinking. In addition, increasing the minimum wage not only helps the worker, but also benefits and grows our overall economy. The Department of Labor indicates that of the 13 states that have raised the minimum wage, jobs increased. In conclusion, we are in support of raising the minimum wage because raising the minimum wage will create jobs and stimulate the economy, thus helping small business owners like myself thrive and be more competitive. And this will positively affect our entire community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please hold your applause.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Herb Shultz, and I'm the new president and CEO of the Eisner Pediatric and Family Medical Center. We provide health care, vital social services, and medically underserved communities in South and Central Los Angeles to more than 32,000 patients, and we have more than 300 plus employees. I'm here today in strong support of increasing the minimum wage. Most of our employees live and work in the communities we serve. Many are of moderate means themselves, and we have a phenomenal, stable workforce, many that have been with us for 2 decades. We're both a nonprofit and a small business. Running a healthy business, whether it be profit or nonprofit, is never easy, and certainly the last few years have been challenging in any number of ways. We understand that some do not like this proposed increase. It's caused concern amongst several organizations. But nonetheless, our organization is proud to be a leader in providing vital, helpful social services to underserved individuals and families, and equally proud of our relationship with our employees. So we believe that as a nonprofit and small business, we must advocate strongly for the passage of this proposal and an increase in the minimum wage. We greatly appreciate the support and sponsorship of the measure by the chair, many members of the committee, many members of the City Council, and we also appreciate the mayor's support for increasing the minimum wage. We urge swift action and approval of this proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. You called Carlos Montes, I believe?
Yes, sir.
My name is Carlos Montes. I'm the current president of the Boyle Heights Neighborhood Council. I'm also a longtime civil rights activist. And I was active in the original Poor People's Campaign in 1968. So I remember when we fought for the rights of poor working people, one of the major things was to increase the minimum wage. So I'm here in support of increasing the minimum wage to $15 per hour. But also I ask you to consider strong enforcement measures, because we can have $15 an hour, but unless working people are able to enforce that wage, it will be a hollow victory. I'll also say that, you know, I remember working in El Paso, Texas for $1.60 an hour in the old days, right? Looking at every penny, every dollar to be able to survive, to put food on the table, to pay the rent. $15 is just a start. It should be way higher than $15. Working class families in Boyle Heights, throughout LA, are barely surviving on minimum wage. So I ask you to please, $15 an hour with enforcement. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Dante Atkins. I am the co-chair of the Los Angeles County Democratic Party's Legislative Committee. The county Democratic Party has unanimously endorsed Mayor Garcetti's minimum wage proposal that is before you here today, because we believe as a body that reasonable increases to the minimum wage, such as what is before you today, strengthen the local economy and strengthen the individual's buying power who makes minimum wage and allows them to actually have a reasonable standard of living. Opponents will say, because they always do, that now is not the proper time to increase the minimum wage, and that argument would carry more weight if they ever believed that there was a proper time to increase the minimum wage, which is an argument that we never hear. So I encourage swift and unanimous adoption of this proposal on behalf of the Los Angeles County Democratic Party. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me, as your name is called, may I ask you just to line up for the sake of efficiency, so that we can go a little quicker. John Howard, Ruben Gonzalez, and Sarah Mitchell, and David Sackman. David Sackman.
Good afternoon. I'm John Howland with the Central City Association. I've given a copy of our statement on Mayor Garcetti's proposal to the clerk. Hopefully that's been passed out. The minimum wage before you today will have significant and wide-reaching consequences. Many of them, though unintended, will be quite damaging to our economy. While the goal of boosting worker pay, reducing poverty, and increasing economic activity is laudable, the ordinance in its current form will also cause widespread job loss and a substantial drop in new job creation and business investment. These negative impacts will fall particularly hard on small businesses, the backbone of LA's economy, and on nonprofits, many of which are already struggling. For these reasons, CCA supports item number 2 on your agenda, Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell's motion to further study the impacts of the minimum wage proposal. Make no mistake, we want to see poverty end in our city, but we believe the best way to do this is to help people climb out of poverty is to create a robust economy that creates many new jobs and attracts businesses and encourages them to stay and create good paying jobs. Please delay number 1 and vote for number 2.
Thank you. Please, let's maintain some order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Ruben Gonzalez. I'm here on behalf of the LA Area Chamber of Commerce. I stand here in support of the O'Farrell-Blumenfield motion calling for a objective and independent study as to the impacts of the mayor's proposed minimum wage regulation. There are scores of studies on minimum wage in California and across the nation. But the problem with those studies, even if you believe they're from an independent objective body, is that they are based on data and modeling on counties and states. That ignores the significant impacts that are different for cities. Cities like Los Angeles, where, depending on who you ask, 20 to 30 other cities impact their borders. So what we need is an independent economic study so we have real data and we're making decisions based not on ideology but on the facts before us. So as my colleague said, please delay item 1 and move forward with item 2. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Sarah Mitchell with the Valley Industry and Commerce Association. We represent more than 400 businesses in the Valley, many that would be affected by the proposed minimum wage hike. VICA opposes the ordinance in its current form because it pushes the city minimum wage up too high, too fast, without any relief to the affected businesses. In fact, 21% of our members said that they would consider moving to one of the 29 neighboring cities should this move in its current form. LA cannot afford that loss of jobs and revenue. Any minimum wage increase must be passed in conjunction with a specific timeline to phase out the business tax, as well as enact concrete regulatory reform to make it easier to do business in this city. Businesses of all types and sizes cannot handle the burden of a 47% increase in the minimum wage without any relief from the city's reputation for being expensive and full of red tape. We are also concerned about the across-the-board implementation, which does not take into account the extra negative impact this wage hike has on nonprofits and small businesses and franchises. Our members request that the ordinance include a longer phase-in timeline for these entities. Thank you.
Edwin Valencia.
Good afternoon.
Mirna Jackson, Kevin Litwin, and Carolina Barola. Okay, sir, please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is J. David Sackman. I've devoted pretty much all my adult life to supporting the interests of working people, first with Cesar Chavez, United Farm Workers back in the 70s, and the last 3 decades as an attorney for workers, unions, and their benefit funds. I'm not here today representing any of them, though, even though some of them are in the audience here today. I'm here speaking on my own behalf as an advocate for working people based on my decades of experience. Not surprisingly, I support the raise of the minimum wage. There's a lot of other people here who will speak to that. What I want to speak to is one suggestion, and that is included in the living wage ordinance. I suggest that you include a component for health care insurance. The same kind of idea that we have for that is now in the prevailing wage statute in the state, the construction workers who work for city projects, part of their pay may go to health insurance. I think this is needed. It will also reduce the burden on businesses and the tax burden on the workers. So it will help everybody, and I think it should be added. Thank you. Si se puede.
Please refrain.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Mirna Jackson. I'm the Director of Operations for a nonprofit here in the city of Los Angeles, the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking, also known as CAST. We have served over 1,000 victims of human trafficking who have been exploited for their labor here in the city of Los Angeles. So I know firsthand how important it is to pay workers a fair wage. At CAST, our staff provides essential services to victims of human trafficking and advocates for systemic change to end modern-day slavery. This is hard work, and we need the best and the brightest to make a real impact. For this reason, we ask that you do not exempt nonprofit organizations from this proposal. Nonprofits need to be competitive, and the best way to do so is by paying a salary that is comparable to the corporate sector. A two-tiered class of workers will not help the economy, nor the nonprofit sector, nor the society as a whole. I support Mayor Garcetti's proposal to raise minimum wage for the workers of Los Angeles.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, members of the public, City Council. My name is Kevin Litwin, and I am the Senior Vice President of Joe's Parking with the L&R Group of Companies. We oversee almost 15,000 parking stalls in the downtown area alone with 200-plus employees on these parking lots. Our parking lot attendants make up a good percentage of that staff, and our pay rates are within the current minimum wage scale. I'm here today with support from my company board and CEO to show our approval of the proposed citywide minimum wage increase to $13.25 an hour. Within our industry, to stay competitive, we pay rent to use the land for parking, and as mentioned before, it employs the current wage scales, but we wholeheartedly want to pay our employees more. We can only accomplish this if everyone participates by using comparable rates and levels the playing field, thus submitting rents and formulas in a bidding process that are fair. Our philosophies on the price of park will not change. It will be based on supply and demand. Increasing the wage scale will not be pushed on the consumer. We believe that these type of programs and pay increases could add to our volumes and potentially pay for itself. It's been a pleasure speaking here. Happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Edwin Valencia. I have 15 years of professional work experience in Fortune 100 organizations in the capacity of economics, finance, and strategic planning. Additionally, I possess an MBA from Georgetown University, so I understand the topic at hand, and I've also read the UC Berkeley study conducted. The minimum wage jobs are physically demanding, have unpredictable schedules, and pay so meagerly that workers can't save enough to move on and up. Poverty is not a character failing nor a lack of motivation. Poverty is a shortage of money. For most people in poverty, both in good times and in bad times, the shortage of money arises largely from inadequate wages. I'm in support of Mayor Garcetti's proposal to increase minimum wages.
Thank you.
Excuse me. I'm uncertain whether you called my name because it's often mispronounced. Kwame Kruma?
We didn't, but why don't you proceed?
Thank you. My name is Kwame Kruma. I am the co-chair of the Martin Luther King Coalition of Greater Los Angeles. I'm also the president of the Greater Echo Park Elysian Neighborhood Council. I'm here to speak today on behalf of a $15 an hour minimum wage because I think that we're going to have to rethink our approach to economics. As one of the local businessmen spoke earlier, how can businesses be viable when people don't have enough disposable income? Frankly, my wife and I raised 2 children back in the 80s and 90s successfully, but I don't know how people are making it on minimum wage and sub-minimum wage incomes in our city or any place else in this country, or able to raise their children or even take care of their basic responsibilities. I think that this theory of trickle-down economics does not work. It is not just. And I think that we're going to have to adopt a different approach by raising those on the bottom and restructuring the whole process.
Thank you. Okay, we have Carolina, followed by Doug, Hanna, Andy, Hasron, Harnick, Tiara, and Jawad Arsani. Ms. Barola?
Hi, my name is Carolina. I am a Wilmington resident. I am with the iHeart, Wilmington, and SBCC. I support the minimum wage because I have had past experiences and seen my family struggle because of minimum wage. My brother and sister-in-law are both struggling to make ends meet for themselves and my niece. I have seen the struggles firsthand and have volunteered to babysit due to lack of money for their babysitter. My way of helping my family is to join and serve for the Marines. It'd lead a quicker way for my support and my family so that I won't have to see them struggle as much as they do now. So once again, I support the raise for minimum wage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Doug Hanna. I'm a commercial real estate broker. I'm here to object to Motion 1 and support Motion 2. I think the intent of Motion 1 is laudable, and I think most business people would not have a problem with it. However, as mentioned by a previous speaker, there are many communities that abut the LA community, and I happen to spend a lot of time in the Atwater Village, Eagle Rock areas with my activity, and I know that there's very serious concern with a lot of these villages that have just gone through regentrification, all of a sudden having to compete with people that are right across the street from them at a serious disadvantage. So I think the policy, though well-intended in Motion 1, is once again laudable. It's myopic, and we need to have a further study and level the playing field for these small business people.
Thank you.
My name is Andy Hasron. I am the president of Atwater Village Chamber of Commerce, as well as a business owner for the last close to 20 years in Atwater Village. The Chamber opposes the minimum wage increase in Atwater Village, and that will result in small businesses moving down the street to neighboring cities such as Burbank and Glendale, which is, again, walking distance. The Chamber of Commerce opposes, again, the minimum wage increase, and we support motion number 2 proposed by Councilmember Mitchell Farrell. Small businesses are job creating and tax paying. Please keep that in consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jawad Arsani. I am a small business owner. I own a 7-Eleven store on 8500 Olympic Boulevard. I have been operating there since 1999. I employ about a staff of 9, and what I'm proposing is I support option number 2, motion number 2. Currently, I do pay my workers above the minimum wage. I understand the hard economic situations that we deal with. I give my employees overtime, and by imposing this minimum wage to $13.25 or possibly to $15 would force me to cut those benefits, and would also have me lay off a few people. So I support option number 2, motion number 2. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Nick Tiara. I'm a 7-Eleven franchisee for past 30 years on 10,000 block of Santa Monica Boulevard. I employ about 10 people, and I put in about 12 to 14 hours a day. By the way, we had a free Slurpee for everybody on 7-Eleven Day. I oppose motion 1, and I support motion 2. And we hate to have migration of business, small business, to the areas out of the city, and they'll hurt us, put a squeeze on our businesses. Like to have a fair playing fields. I pay over the minimum wage right now and pay the overtime to our employees. But this motion 1 will put a squeeze on my business where we have to restructure the way we schedule the labor. And we already put in long hours ourselves, so we just have to cut back and whatever we can. And I support the motion 2 for further study. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, after this speaker, we've got Velvet Victorian, Miguel Luna, Rabbi Klein, Ruth Dawson, Fanny Velasquez, and Rusty Hicks.
Good afternoon. My name is Jorge Cabrera. I'm with the Southern Coalition for Occupational Safety and Health, SoCal COSH. We are a regional organization that advocates for the health and safety of workers, not only LA County, but also all the counties across Southern California. Today, I'm here on behalf of the Shop Well LA Coalition, and I'm here to speak in favor of paid sick days. First of all, we would like to recognize that we do recognize that we're happy with the bill that at the state level that gives us 3 paid sick days, but we are asking for more because this is not enough for workers to take care of themselves when they're sick and for their families when they're sick. In addition, we see that we're in right now in this crisis that we're in when there's a high level of poverty striking our workers, and that there's also the rents are going up and we can't afford the housing, public transportation. We're also in favor of the motion to increase the minimum wage and also to increase provisions against wage theft. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Velvet Victorian, and I'm a concerned citizen, and I've also been homeless, and I lost my job in 2005. It was outsourced with Pacific Bell. And ever since then, I don't have any relatives or anything. So I've had to pull myself up by the bootstraps, making less than $13 an hour. And it's been rough. And I'm hungry right now because I had to pay all my bills. There's nothing left. I can barely even look for a better paying job. So I would urge City Council to go with Proposition 1 and at least $13 an hour, because the rent has not gone down in this city for years. When I started working, my rent was $250 a month. Now it's over $1,000 a month, and do the math. At $10 an hour or $8 an hour, people can't afford to take care of themselves at all.
Good afternoon. My name is Fanny Velasquez. I am a single mother of 3 kids. I work for McDonald's and I get paid $9.35. The reason I'm here is to fight for $15 a union, a minimum wage. Sometimes I don't have any money for rent, to pay my bills, and to provide stuff for my kids. I think I don't have enough money to pay my bills and rent. We need $15 now for my kids can wait and my family can wait. Need more sickness days for us to raise the minimum wage now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rabbi Jonathan Klein with Clergy and Laity Unite for Economic Justice. I want to give a special thank you to the council members who have joined us today and listened in as well. As I'm sure you might guess, I'm in favor of this increase because people of faith across the board recognize the inherent worth and dignity of all people. I dare us to find religious leaders who would oppose a minimum wage increase. It's because we care about how people are doing. Their daily lives are very much in the balance, so many people in this city, and we know that you're going to do what's right. It's just a matter of ensuring that we get the best language moving forward. We support this at CLU LA fully, and I urge the support not just of Economic Development Committee, but all those on council when this eventually and hopefully speedily comes before the full council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Miguel Luna. I'm the Executive Director of the organization Urban Semillas, who works with monolingual Spanish-speaking communities throughout LA and the county, particularly around social equity and environmental issues. And I think there's a huge connection here when, if we're looking at the healthcare costs in the future, and we have a huge issue of obesity in our communities, and people have the option of paying more money that they don't have for healthy food, or $1.50 at a fast food place, I mean, it doesn't become an option. So we really need to look at this as a long term. I had other comments, but just hearing the guy talk about, giving people overtime as a way to make up is really ridiculous. If you don't have time to spend with your family, you can't ask us to go to community meetings, and you can't ask us to participate in our civic duty.
Thank you.
If we have to spend that extra time doing other things. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Ruth Dawson, and I'm with the LGBT Gender and Reproductive Justice Project at the ACLU of Southern California. And the ACLU strongly supports passing a comprehensive minimum wage policy for the city of Los Angeles. We believe that basic economic rights are inextricably entwined with civil rights and civil liberties. Essentially, reproductive justice means being able to work and take care of your family. And I'd like to note that women of color are the most frequent victims of wage theft and have very low access to paid sick days across the board. And that's why I'm here today, representing one of many, many organizations across the city that is urging the committee to develop a comprehensive living wage policy that includes three things. We're looking for a $15 minimum wage, guaranteed paid sick days, and wage enforcement. And we'd like to thank both the City Council and Mayor Garcetti for your vision in bringing this crucial policy to the Economic Development Committee, and we look forward to working together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. I am Rusty Hicks. I'm with the LA County Federation of Labor. And first of all, we want to thank you for bringing this important issue up for discussion and for debate. Over the next coming weeks and months, there will be a robust debate about what the wage is, what the wage isn't, what exemptions there are, what exemptions there aren't. But I hope that over the course of these months that we think about the 810,000 working men and women who are working full or part-time in the city of LA and make less than $15 an hour, can't support themselves, can't support their families, and can't contribute to their communities. I hope we remember the $26 million that's stolen out of the pockets of workers each and every week in this city. I hope we think about the workers that go to work sick because they can't take a pay cut, and they have to go to work because they don't have guaranteed paid sick days. So the LA County Federation of Labor is standing here with this room asking you to pass the best and most comprehensive minimum wage increase policy for working men and women in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jeremy Robb, Adina Tesler, Leon Gubler, Ryan Vavales, Jim Henderson.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeremy Robb, 20-year resident of Los Angeles and business owner in Los Angeles. I'm actually quite surprised that the decision is before us to either approve a minimum wage increase or study that increase. It would seem that a policymaking body is responsible for first fully vetting out everything involved with such a complex issue. And as a business owner myself, there's many issues that have yet to be brought up. So I would like to commend Councilman O'Farrell for his motion to create further study and have further outreach to small businesses. And I would like to encourage the consideration of exemptions for small businesses and nonprofits when you do consider the minimum wage increase. So thank you.
Thank you. And just to clarify, our consideration today is for a study. We're not ruling on anything else. What's before us is whether or not to conduct a study. Ms. Tesler?
Good afternoon, council members. I'm here today representing the Los Angeles chapter of the California Restaurant Association. We have over 2,000 members in Los Angeles alone, and more than 40% of the restaurants in California are located here in Los Angeles. The restaurant industry is the second largest private employer in California, generating over $4.5 billion in sales tax per year. So we recognize the importance of our industry's viability to this city's economy. The restaurant industry understands that a minimum wage increase in the city of LA is coming, as we've seen it occur in other cities throughout California. This is why we've been talking to all of you individually and are here again today to make sure that the ordinance LA puts into effect will actually impact those people in our industry who are making just a minimum wage. The employees who receive a check based on a state wage of $9 at this time that would receive the increase you are considering are actually our front of house servers and staff and bartenders. Those employees, when you consider their total compensation, can make anywhere from $20 to $60. We're asking that you look at the San Diego and Seattle ordinances and review their total compensation components. We're also asking, and I'll sum up really quickly, that you also look at the impact of this wage increase on unskilled entry-level workers and consider how that will impact hiring unskilled teens. In San Jose and San Francisco, where they've increased the minimum wage, youth unemployment is at its lowest.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Leron Gubler, President and CEO of the Hollywood Chamber, and the Chamber agrees that poverty in LA needs to be addressed. However, we believe that the best way to help people rise out of poverty is to create a robust economy and to grow good-paying jobs. We support an increase in the minimum wage, but not as currently proposed. Steps must be taken to mitigate the negative effects on LA's small businesses. We cannot support the Bonin motion unless the O'Farrell-Blumenfield motion is also passed. We have surveyed our members, and the results have shown that 53% of our members believe that they will be negatively impacted by the proposal to raise the minimum wage. So please take the time to listen to the businesses that will be impacted and to craft an increase that does the least amount of harm to businesses. There's no need for a headlong rush to approve an increase. There has never been an increase of this magnitude in this short of a time. Please do the right thing for everyone, residents and businesses.
Thank you.
Ryan Navales from the Midnight Mission. The Midnight Mission has been fighting a way to self-sufficiency for 100 years, and a significant part of that is our job preparedness program, where we offer our program participants not only a framework for structure and accountability, but provide for them a skill set for long-term employment, as well as a head start in self-sufficiency. and this often takes place in the form of entry-level employment opportunities. As a nonprofit that relies on funding from donors and private contributions and no government money, the increase of the minimum wage would greatly reduce our ability to provide these vital program opportunities to our clients. Further, it would have a negative impact on our ability to provide the daily services so many of our most needy in our community depend on. The Midnight Mission stands opposed to an immediate increase in the minimum wage and would ask that this committee take the time to fully investigate and understand the impacts on organizations in our line of work and perhaps consider exemptions for agencies such as ours that are privately funded. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for their cooperation. We've got a few more left. Jim Henderson, Tony Yadao, Bradford Burke, Fanny Velasquez, Alexandria Guth, Marcos Perez, followed by Rosemary Jenkins and Steve Salas.
Go ahead.
You may proceed.
My name is Tony Yano. I'm a resident of Los Angeles, and I employ about 300 Angelinos. I, like a lot of people here, feel there's a lot of need for change, and there's a lot of need to help those who aren't making enough. And it's a tough city to live in, but it's also a very tough city to do business in. And unless there are sweeping changes, we're going to see continued unemployment. Los Angeles is in the bottom 10% of the nation in employment. By making it harder for small businesses to create these jobs, that's only going to get worse. And I'm seeing it firsthand. So I think that the most important thing is that this gets reconsidered and we look at Mr. O'Farrell's proposal to go deeper into this and find better ways to get money to people who need the money. I'm fully supportive of increasing a minimum wage, but only if small business is equally impacted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bradford Beck. I'm the president and CEO of United Aeronautical Corporation. We're an aerospace firm with about 50 employees in North Hollywood, California, in District Number 2. I want to thank everyone for allowing us some chance to speak here. I think it's pretty important to say that I think every employer wants happy employees, wants employees to have a living wage, wants employees to be able to afford the livings that they need and afford expenses in the city. I do want clearly to state that I am in support of the minimum wage increase to $13.25 an hour, and I believe there's many industries that are also in support of that. I think we have to be careful, though, in raising above $13.25. I think that's definitely squeezing it a little bit too far. With $13.25, that's a pretty significant increase, directly affecting corporations and possibly watching them transport from our city to local neighboring cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Alexandra Sa. I'm with the Koreatown Immigrant Workers Alliance, KIWA. Our membership, KIWA has been around for 22 years. We work with thousands of low-income families and workers every year, and we are thrilled that the mayor and city council has started this very, very important conversation. One issue that KIWA works on is wage theft. This week, 80% of workers in low-wage jobs have not been paid for the work they have done. Last week, 80% of workers in Los Angeles in low-wage jobs were not paid all their wages for the work they have done. It is absolutely important that we think about enforcement, wage theft enforcement, as part of this conversation, as part of this policy. Right now, if people are not making $9 an hour, if the minimum wage goes up to $13, $15, $20, or $100, it will not mean anything for workers if there is no enforcement. So enforcement needs to be part of a platform that includes a raise to $15 at least, wage enforcement, and sick days.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Rosemary Jenkins, columnist for City Watch LA and LA Progressive and community activist. Wage theft is a significant issue that is often overlooked and downplayed. It affects not just low-income workers, but skilled workers who fill banking jobs, and even employees that have been subcontracted by the city. These people are being forced to work off the clock, witnessing illegal deductions from their paycheck and getting paid less than their total hours worked. And this has become a significant and totally unacceptable problem. People depend on every dollar earned and owed to them. When they earn more, they spend more, which expands the economy. Council members Fuentes and Martinez, for instance, represent the Northeast Valley and want to develop the Van Nuys Boulevard corridor around the Pacoima City Hall vicinity. Such development could create a vibrancy for business, which can be supported by the discretionary money workers can spend if paid what they are worth, a minimum wage of at least $15 an hour. And furthermore, achieving a viable middle-class income will also allow workers to have more time at home with their families.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Marco Sánchez. Soy miembro de ACE y vivo en la ciudad de Los Ángeles con mi familia y un niño que tiene 7 años.
Good afternoon. My name is Marco Sanchez. I'm a member of ACE. I live in the city of LA with my wife and my son, 7-year-old son.
Yo he trabajado en una compañía de costura por 10 años, lo cual ahora estoy ganando el sueldo mínimo y creo que el sueldo mínimo ahora ya no alcanza para sostener una familia.
I've worked in the same garment factory company for the same company for 10 years, and I make the minimum, and that's not enough to support my family.
De los 10 años que yo tengo trabajando para esa compañía, nunca nos han pagado ni siquiera un día de enfermedad. Creo que es justo pedir días de enfermedad pagados porque es muy difícil para nosotros trabajar enfermos por estar pensando que nos pueden despedir si no nos presentamos al trabajo.
For the 10 years I've worked at this company, we've never once had one single day off for sick time. And that makes it really hard for us. I don't think that's right because we end up having to decide whether to go to work or worried about go to work sick or worried about getting fired for not going to work when we're sick.
Creo que es justo que todos tengamos días de enfermedad pagados. Yo creo también que ojalá y la ciudad lo requiera como lo han requerido en otras ciudades. Muchas gracias por la moción y por haberla presentado.
I think it would be the right thing to do to require that all employers pay for sick days. I hope that the city follows the lead of other cities that have done this along with a minimum wage increase, and thank you very much for putting out the motion.
Okay, thank you. Manisha Vasey, Brian Goods, Patty Masalma, Miguel Cruz, Jorge Cabrera. Come forward, sir.
Hello, my name is Brian Goods. I'm here representing the Black Worker Center. The main reason why the Black Worker Center is here is in support of seeing minimum wage increased. As this law is passed, we would like to see more diversity among employment and access to all the positions available. Equality is not the hardest thing to come to an agreement on, but diversity, that's a whole nother enormous topic, which is why I stand before you today, because diversity is not policy. I believe that the diversity and equality goes hand in hand. Equality is something of the norm in a good running establishment. In fact, America is a good running establishment. For the Declaration of Independence, equality is a standard. We hold we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We want to see the city of LA enforce all labor laws, which include equal employment and opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Vigelav on behalf of Chair of the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights of Los Angeles. We are in strong support of any effort to increase the minimum wage here in the city of Los Angeles. The city of Los Angeles is the largest manufacturing center in the West, one of the world's business ports, and a major financial and banking center. And yet, we are one of the poorest cities across the nation. The child poverty in 2013 was 25%, up from 22% in 2010. Ample academic research indicates that increasing the minimum wage is a major factor in reducing poverty in our city. Increasing the minimum wage is a huge step and must be complemented with strong mechanisms to enforce current laws, especially the ability for workers to collect unpaid wages from unscrupulous employers. While the city of Los Angeles is a capital of entertainment, it is also the wage theft capital, and therefore we also are working, or we hope that the city will take on mechanisms to enforce wage theft. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Sandra Williams, and I'm here representing California National Organization for Women, the largest intersectional feminist organization in California. CA now supports the motion before you to raise the minimum wage. The face of a hardworking Angelino in poverty is often that of a single mother who comprises over 40% of impoverished Americans. And because they are increasingly low-paid breadwinners, women are extremely affected by the policies on wages and paid sick days. Women form the backbone of LA's economy, toiling in low-paying food, retail, and service professions, the new majority of jobs available in our current economic climate. We actually think that the proposal before you today should actually be called family wage motions. California Now urges the committee to help LA families thrive by supporting these motions, because by providing higher wages, wage theft protections, and paid sick time, we are making a major investment in LA's families. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment.
Sí, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Miguel, trabajo en un car wash. La razón por que estoy aquí es que porque vengo aquí a apoyar para que nos paguen el mínimo de la 15 de la hora. Y yo también he sufrido también el robo de salario. Y quiero que aprueben eso, que suban el salario mínimo de los $15 para todos de los car washes.
Excuse me, are you going to interpret for him?
Yes.
Okay. Momento.
Hi, my name is Miguel, and I work for a union car wash, and I am here in support of $15 an hour, but I'm also here to add the enforcement piece to stand against wage theft.
Sí, y vuelvo a repetir que es que yo también he sufrido, también ahorita, hace 5 años sufrí también el robo de salario. No nos pagaban lo que era. Entonces ahora pues ya tenemos este sindicato y ahorita que estamos ahí ya nos pagan la hora que debe de ser.
5 years ago, I have suffered from wage theft, where before my car wash became union, I was suffering. They weren't paying the wages that we deserved. So we're here to make sure that doesn't change. We want to make sure that we stop wage theft, but we also support $15 an hour.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Rosemary Molina, Tia Kuntz, Kathy Depe, Victor Nario, Handy Lopez, Quasi spoke, and Sandra Williams.
Hello, committee. Councilmember Price, I was told you called my name already. I'm Lori Goldman, Executive Director, Friends of the Hollywood Central Park, a nonprofit, here to support Councilmember O'Farrell's motion, Agenda Item 2. I have spent a lifetime pursuing and advocating a liberal progressive agenda, and I support a minimum wage. What I don't support is my local government moving so swiftly that it can't provide me and my nonprofit with the data and information I need to make choices about my business. What are the ramifications to our economy in the city if I can't hire 10 students and have to only hire 5 because of my increase in workers' comp, payroll taxes, and my general liability insurance? And multiply that times the number of nonprofits, and we could have a problem on our hands. So all I'm asking is that you quantify the unintended consequences and impacts, and I don't know what harm it could do. And really quickly, I hope that you can move this swiftly on the other problems that affect poverty in Los Angeles, like affordable housing and educating our workforce.
Thank you very much.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Hanny López.
Good afternoon, my name is Hanny López.
Vivo en esta ciudad. Estoy apoyando aquí para que se aumente a $15 la hora.
I live in this city and I support raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour.
Tengo 3 trabajos y tengo que sobrevivir. Tengo un muchacho en la escuela, en el colegio. Aspiro que él llegue más lejos que yo.
I have 3 jobs in order to pay the bills and provide food on the table, and I have a son who's in college so that he can get further than I did.
En este momento no tengo seguro médico. Si yo me enfermo en mi trabajo, no me lo pagan. Necesito que el aumento llegue para que yo pueda tener por lo menos un tiempo mejor.
Even with 3 jobs, I don't have medical insurance, and if I were to get sick, no one would be able to pay the bills. I need you to help raise the minimum wage so I can have health insurance.
Agradezco mucho el tiempo que me ha tomado para usted me haya escuchado.
I thank you for your time for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Deppie. I'm a member of 9 to 5 National Association of Working Women here in Los Angeles, and I'm here to say we heartily support raising the minimum wage to $15 or more, and we want something to be very strongly worded about wage theft and wage theft enforcement. As the woman from Now said, 2/3 of minimum wage workers are women. And that means there's a lot of people out there who can barely survive on the current minimum wage. It needs to go up, and it needs to be enforced. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Victor Naro with the UCLA Labor Center. We fully support a $15 an hour minimum wage, but it really has to go hand in hand with the enforcement. There are many groups here that have been working for the last 6 years on a wage theft policy in Los Angeles. As mentioned earlier, we are the wage theft capital of this country. Close to 655,000 workers lose $26.2 million a week in wage theft. And that amount is $1.4 billion a year. There is no city in the country that has enacted a minimum wage policy without enforcement policy. It has to happen simultaneously. Council members Paul Koretz and Gil Cedillo have been leading this effort, and we fully support the effort to really push an innovative wage theft policy in Los Angeles. It makes no sense to raise the minimum wage if workers in LA are not even earning the current minimum wage. Thank you.
Okay, followed by Ron Fong, Joseph Villar, Wendy Butts, Meg Grill, Kevin Goldberg, Antonia Ramirez.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, City Council members. My name is Ron Fong. I'm the President and CEO of the California Grocers Association. We're proud employers of about 300,000 workers here in the state of California. We represent the large national chains, the mid-sized independents, and the small mom and pops. We have labor and non-labor stores within our association. Our industry operates on a very curious formula. We are very high in labor. We are very low on margin. We are a penny's margin. So the increase in the minimum wage would concern us greatly because it would force our employers to make a decision as to cutting shifts and what workers should get what shifts and so on and so forth. We're also concerned that it's going to reduce the workforce for our young workers entering into the workforce. Secondly, we're also concerned about the geographical nature of these minimum wage ordinances because it acts as a competitive disadvantage for our multi-city operators that like to come into Los Angeles to work. So for those reasons, I ask you to support your second item and oppose your first. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Wendy Butts, the CEO of the LA Conservation Corps. I'm Veronica Vargas, an Executive Director for Homeboy Industries. The Board of Directors and staff leadership of the LA Conservation Corps believe that Mayor Eric Garcetti's proposal to increase the minimum wage in LA is a positive step forward for addressing poverty at the city level. At the same time, an ordinance to increase minimum wages will play a role in increasing the costs of providing transitional jobs to Los Angeles youth and interfere with the Corps' goal of increasing these young people's educational and skills attainment and improving their employment outcomes while meeting the needs of employers in growing sectors and industries. We believe that the City of LA can assure the success of the Mayor's proposed policy by granting an exemption for paid participants served by organizations like the Corps and Homeboy Industries, and allow us to continue to provide transitional jobs to some of LA's most vulnerable and impoverished citizens who are currently unemployable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. To increase the minimum wage to all unlawful and uncivilized city employees within the next 3 years is prima facie unlawful and thereby misappropriation of city taxpayers' monies to 99.9% of illegal wetbacks and Chango Latino gangbangers who have no legal standing in this country. What you are engaged...
Okay, let's come to order, please. Let this...
Furthermore...
Clearly out of... violate Rule 12. Okay? Okay.
Go ahead.
Furthermore, you are participating in gross legal, moral, and ethical misconduct and are wholly culpable for the city's dire financial crises that we are in, and we will hold you all accountable. Moreover, what truly is despicable is that not one of you have spearheaded any humane projects or implemented any solutions to help alleviate the torrential burden that our homeless and or chronically impoverished military veterans and furloughed pilots are entrenched in, not to mention their families. First and foremost, hire our military veterans and our beloved pilots and raise the standards of America.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Hi, my name is Kevin Goldfein. I'm a business owner, a restaurant owner here in Los Angeles. While I also oppose Motion 1 and support Motion 2, I cannot support anything that person just said based on the other comments.
Please hold your applause.
There's a place for both sides of a discussion, and my questions that I would like the council to think about are, when minimum wage increases, where does that money come from? That money comes out of a business, making it much harder for that business, that small business, to pay its employees without taking in more revenue, which is raising prices, which is the reason that many people who support the minimum wage find as a reason that they have problems paying their bills, paying for things in the city because it's so expensive. The cost of living in Los Angeles is so high. This will make the cost of living go higher. Things will have to cost more money. My products in my restaurant will have to cost more money. The second thing I'd like to bring to the attention is, what about tipped employees? That has been brought up before. There are many employees in my restaurants that are making $40,000, $50,000 a year that this minimum wage will not, it's not for them. There needs to be some kind of take into account that there are a minimum wage across the level where people are making money coming in from tip.
All right, thank you.
As well.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Denise DiCarlo, Alfredo Hernandez, Joseph Villar, Jeremy Robb, I think Jeremy spoke, Meg Grill, Vanessa Ortega.
Hi, my name is Denise DiCarlo. I'm a small business owner, and I'm here to support Mitch O'Farrell's Proposition 2. And I, too, agree with minimum wage increase. And the same thing with the gentleman that just spoke. I own a restaurant. And with the tips that the servers get, they make good money. And if the servers' minimum wage could be lowered, then I can spread that wealth among my staff, my kitchen staff at the back of the house, because they very deserve a raise, and I completely agree with that. But more studies need to be done. Workman's comp, I mean, there's so many other issues that go into it. It's not just giving somebody $15 an hour. Where is that money going to come from? And that's really my issue.
All right, thank you.
So much.
Good afternoon, committee members. I'm Alfredo Hernandez, a founding board member of the Hollywood Network Coalition and chair of our Urban Policy Committee. First and foremost, I want to say that I support increasing minimum wage and livable wages for everybody. But I'm very concerned about the unintended consequences this proposed minimum wage increase will have on small business owners and nonprofit organizations. The study done by UC Berkeley is flawed since they themselves state that they cannot compare Los Angeles to any other large city. There is nothing comparable to us. Therefore, I request that you support Item 2, Mitch O'Farrell's motion, and further study the unintended consequences of this experiment. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Vanessa Ortega, and I'm a Wilmington resident. I am also part of the I Heart Wilmington and the SBCC. I have seen the struggles of minimum wage and have felt helpless. I've heard my friends speak about how instead of going to college, they are forced to work because their families are in need. I realized this when my friend said, and I quote, "I have to pick between college and paying rent." Of course she picked paying rent. For this reason, I support minimum wage raise. Thank you.
Okay, our last round of speakers, Bahiro Conzando, Michelle Udegori, Kendall Henry, Miriam Barbano, I apologize for the butchering, John Parker, and Walker Foley. In that or any order, just come forward, please.
Good afternoon, City Council members. Thank you for having me here. My name is Kendall Henry, and I own a small business called Sky Rentals in Burbank and employ about 25 employees. I applaud Mayor Garcetti for putting this on front and making it a priority. After hearing all the pros and cons, it seems like we are missing the plight of the worker. 27% of Angelenos live in poverty. Low minimum wage causes job turnaround, instability, and low productivity, which equals unstable families and unstable economy. Poverty is bad for business. Raise the minimum wage to $13.25. It's not a matter of if, but when. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Council, my name is Michelle Udorji. I'm the Market Match Outreach Coordinator for Hunger Action LA. We coordinate the Market Match program in 19 different locations throughout the county. We serve 8,000 families. Many of our recipients are on CalFresh, and they are the working poor. There's not a day that goes by when I'm at my market, particularly areas like Mar Vista, where I have families complain that the benefit is not enough because they make too little and we can't cover the costs with the additional $10 that they receive. People are making very difficult choices between housing, rent, and food, and we highly encourage the council to support Measure 1, including a mechanism for wage theft protection, because both cannot work without each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Miriam Burbano. I am a small business owner, and I support the increase of the minimum wage. Some people wonder how is that people can have a decent life with a $9 an hour. Well, wonder no more. They can't. It's impossible. I teach mathematics, and I can walk you through the numbers to see that the person actually is going to take home $240 a month. If we take into consideration that the average rent in Los Angeles is $1,000 a month for one-bedroom apartment, thousands of people who work full time and are not able to pay their bills, they have to be on food stamps. It is amazing how people that have business, which I applaud them. I am an entrepreneur myself, but I will never pay a person that works with me or for me less than $15 an hour. However, I do applaud the $13.75 an hour. 40 hours a week, Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Buenas tardes a todos.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Es lastimoso escuchar a los pequeños negocios de que cuál va a ser el impacto de ellos al subir el salario mínimo a $15.25.
It's very hurtful to hear the small business owners say, what is the impact of raising the minimum wage to $15.25?
El mejor impacto para cualquier negocio es que el pueblo es el comprador.
The biggest impact is that the people are the consumers.
Si los gobiernos han inyectado capital a los ricos, ¿por qué hoy el gobierno no hace lo mismo con los pobres?
If the government has injected money into the rich, why can't they inject money into the poor?
Somos los generadores de las demandas sobre la oferta.
We are the generators of the demands over the offers.
Pedimos lo justo, 15 más una unión, días de enfermedad y que pare el robo de salario.
We ask for what is just, $15 in a union, a stop to wage theft, and paid sick days.
Si la clase media no apoya esto, los próximos pobres serán ustedes. Rehusar al salario mínimo no es la solución.
If the middle class can't support this, they will be the next poor.
El voto del pueblo es más fuerte que el de los ricos, señores.
The vote of the people is stronger than the vote of the rich.
Es increíble que hace 50 años se estuviera peleando por lo mismo, justicia laboral.
It's incredible that 50 years ago we were fighting for the same thing, social justice.
Respeto a nuestra dignidad es lo único que pedimos.
All we ask for is respect for our dignity.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Walker Foley, and I'm an organizer with Food and Water Watch and a member of the Southern California Climate Action Coalition. This today is an issue of justice, both economic and environmental. For many low-income earners often live at the border of heavy industrial activity and don't have the income or the time to address these concerns. We urge this Council and this committee, and this Council to support not only a minimum wage increase as soon as possible, but to ensure protections against a worker's wage being stolen by their employers, and to ensure that workers do not jeopardize paying rent and other bills for a needed sick day. Having a job should not be a sacrifice to the quality of life. One full-time job should be able to support a household income. If Los Angeles' business community will not lead, then it is the moral obligation of this Council to eliminate the staggering inequality and wage poverty that exists in this city. For local economies to work, local residents need revenue. Workers need a raise, workers need wage theft protections, and workers need paid sick days. Thank you.
You know, in 1968, the minimum wage would buy you more goods and services than the minimum wage in California of $9 right now. For the past 35 years, wages have gone down and profits have gone up. We have the biggest gap between the rich and the poor today. So, of course, we should support the efforts to fight this criminal wage theft and for more enforcement. But also, 15 is important. It represents a movement, a national movement right now that's going on of low-wage workers, a historic movement of them trying to fight for 15 and a union, and we have to support that. So I suggest the council do the enforcement of 15 now in today's dollars, and if not, there is also a ballot that has enforcement and deals with wage theft that calls for 15, and once it's voted for, it immediately takes effect. Robert Reich and the economists, the conservatives, have said that the stimulus to the economy would happen when low-wage workers get an increase in their wages. But what's more important is people can't survive on anything less than 15, so it's not negotiable.
Thank you. Thank you. Our last speaker on the queue today, Bradley Hertz.
Thank you. I'm Bradley Hertz of the Sutton Law Firm, and here to express several concerns regarding the committee's consideration of these matters at this time. First, the recent expansion of this committee from 5 members to 7 members is a concern, making it the only City Council committee with 7 members, whereas most have 3 or 5. Second, one of the new committee members seconded one of the motions at Council, which could lead to the inference that the recent new appointments are part of an effort to affect the outcome of this committee's votes. Third, we have concerns regarding the Brown Act and compliance with the Act, and urge the committee to abide by the open and public meeting and notice requirements. We will be closely monitoring these proceedings, the ordinance, the studies for compliance with all applicable laws and procedures, and thank you.
Well, I want to thank all the public for the comments made on both sides of this issue. As we've said on a number of occasions, this is really just the beginning of the discussion, and we look forward to a robust one that reflects all points of views. Members, we do have some recommendations, but I'll open the floor for any comments at this time, if there are any. Mr. Koretz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'd start off by certainly thanking Mayor Garcetti for his leadership and starting this dialogue at all about raising so many of our citizens out of poverty. I would agree with the folks that have said that it's of at least equal importance for us to look at the wage theft issue as well. We have around 27% of our workforce that is at the poverty level, and of those that are already at the poverty level, a third of them have some or all of their wages stolen, which is just unbelievable. It's almost $1.5 billion a year of people that aren't getting paid minimum wage, aren't getting paid overtime, or in many cases have their entire wage for a period of time stolen. And when they actually get a judgment against the employer to be paid their wages, only 17% of those people actually ever get their wages. So this is an outrageous situation, and it has to be corrected along with an increase in the minimum wage, or as it was said, it doesn't help any of those people. It just widens the gap of what they could have gotten and what they're actually getting. When I was in the state legislature, I made an attempt to deal with this 12 years ago, when we were actually having people in different industries come before us, like the janitorial industry, and say, well, 70% of our colleagues are not paying minimum wage. We're the 30% that pay it. Please help us. So let's focus on that as well. But we know this is needed. We know we have to lift our workers out of poverty. At the same time, there are some issues that we should at least look at more carefully. So I hope we will do this study at the same time. And also, I know there's an issue of sick days as well. So I would ask that we make every effort to look at those two issues, wage theft and sick days, by the end of the year as well, because I think they all should move forward as a package as we lift our lowest wage workers out of poverty and hopefully have a positive impact on this economy as well. This is money that's going to be spent. It's going to be spent locally. I think it will create a lot of jobs and a lot of economic activity as well.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Members, any other comments at this time?
I'll speak.
Mr. Victorian.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank everyone for participating in this hearing today. I think I just want to clarify that some people framed this discussion as being either for the first motion or for the second motion. And that is not at all the case. They are not mutually exclusive. In fact, I think Ms. Martinez and I and maybe others were signatories to both. And the reason is that there seemed to be, in this discussion that we've heard today and in the discussion that we've heard from the council, extremely wide consensus that there is a need to address wage inequality in this city. There is a need to increase the minimum wage. I don't think that the issue is whether or not to do that. The issue is how we best do it. And so that's why I have I'm very grateful for the mayor's visionary leadership in putting this issue before us. It's really hopefully going to move forward the national dialogue about wage inequality. In order to do that successfully, we need to make sure we do it effectively here in Los Angeles. And I want to applaud all the authors of the first motion. Mr. Bonin submitted some tremendously insightful and detailed questions and issues about analyzing the positive benefits of a wage increase. And Mr. O'Farrell submitted some very, very insightful questions about how we ensure that in doing that, we actually benefit the people that we're trying to benefit, that we don't cause adverse impacts on the negative side, and so on. And so I think that there seems to be wide consensus about where we want to go. And the question is, what is the most effective, sustainable way to achieve that objective? So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would welcome your recommendations, but I do just want to point out that that these are not at all mutually exclusive, and hopefully we'll be able to, by engaging in a further dialogue, engaging in further study, we will be able to achieve the goals that are set out in the first motion.
Thank you. Mr. Cedillo, followed by Mrs. Martinez.
Ms. Martinez.
You want to defer? Go ahead. Ms. Martinez?
Do you want me to go first? Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. I'm glad you clarified that, because I was also a bit concerned that as speakers were addressing their different points, they were pointing to one more motion over the other. And I was one of the members who signed on to both, so I'm glad you clarified that. And quite honestly, I think Mr. O'Farrell does raise several questions that we need to look at. One of my questions, though, I had for the CLA's office and the COA's office. Are you here? And one of the questions I had was in terms of, are you going to be putting this out to RFP or RFQ to identify the potential consultants or companies that are going to conduct the study?
We're waiting for the full instruction from the committee and the council on how to move forward on that, and it's typical that we would do an RFP of some sort to seek consultants who could do the study.
Yeah, and I was wondering if we can also reach out to the academia, potentially USC or Loyola Marymount or UCLA, and see if they have the capacity to be able to undertake something like this?
Absolutely. There are lots of ways to build the lists for potential bidders and to reach out to potential bidders for this.
Okay, those are the only two questions I had.
All right, thank you.
Jen? Yes, I'm that piece. Just to echo the words of thank you, everybody, for being here. It is a timely and important discussion for all of us to have. Clearly, we have a problem in America of poverty and wage inequality. We also have a very complex economy. Raising the wages for hotel workers, easy. Small amount of workers doing the same type of work, and international companies who, frankly, from my perspective, could afford it. Not a problem at all. We impact maybe 3,500 workers. Noble, they deserve it, and I was happy to vote for it. This, on the other hand, is much more complicated. We're looking at 500,000 workers, 500,000 workers, up to maybe 800,000 workers. And so there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and it's those questions are the reason that we wrote into the first motion, motion 1, that the CAO look at the adverse impact. Mr. Bonin's nodding because we spent a lot of time having this discussion. We want to know what's the impact. It's a very delicate economy. We're heavy on service. We're heavy on low wage. We have some manufacturing. We have other elements of technology and intellectual work, and it's complicated. And so we have to be thoughtful and careful that we accomplish the goals that I think many of us agree on. How do we eliminate this incredible divide between wealth and poverty that undermines? It's not simply a question of justice and fairness and equality, but it actually undermines our economy. When you have too many poor people, no one can go to the store to buy the goods. No one can go to the movies to see the movies that we subsidize with our taxes. Nobody can buy the automobiles, nobody can buy the bicycles, nobody can buy the goods and services that their families need and deserve. They can't be afforded. It's not, housing is not too expensive if you're rich, right? It's only when you have economic challenges that housing is too expensive. And so there's two ways to do it. Make more affordable housing, which you have to, first of all, make more housing. And second of all, you raise the wages. And so that's what we have to figure out here. And it's very complicated. There's a lot of questions for us. And Mr. Krikorian, I think you were perhaps the most eloquent when you raised the first question about job loss. What happens at the restaurant that I go to that's been owned by a family for 3 generations? The whole family works there. But they have about 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 workers. And so it's a family-run business. And what happens if I tell them that you have to, instead of paying this man who comes in for $9 an hour, you have to pay him $15? Right? What happens besides them telling me not to come back? What happens, right? Do they let that man off and bring in another member of the family? Do they reduce the hours? That's just one location. And so we're talking about how do we do this for 500,000 people? And this question of job loss. If you take 1% of job loss out of 500,000, it'll eliminate the benefits for the entire hotel industry that we work so hard to raise. Eliminate. So we have to think about this very, very carefully and figure out what amount of job loss is acceptable or unacceptable from our perspective and what we do about that. The question of unemployment isn't simply a question of the wages, but it's also a question of job training. And so I welcome all of you here, but I want you to come back to another hearing that we're going to have where the Obama administration is going to cut job training. And I want to have the same interest and the same community concern, because if people aren't trained for jobs, you know, you see all these buildings going up throughout the city, but the people who work there are driving in from Orange County and from Lancaster and from the Inland Empire. So one thing would be to say, well, you have to have local hire. That's very important. But local hire doesn't matter if we don't have people who are trained to do that work. And so we have to figure out what the role of job training is in this, what the role is of the federal cuts by the Obama administration. We have to figure out what is a nonprofit. I appreciate that, but I don't know who we're talking about. Are we talking about the small group that tries to raise scholarships and do job training and leadership training that we worked with? Are we talking about the small groups in my district? Or are we talking about Kaiser? Right? Are we talking about the California Endowment? I don't know who we're talking about. Are we talking about when I ran Local 660, we were a nonprofit? Is that who we're talking about? And is Local 721, if they're still under the same charter, are they going to get an exemption on this? So we have to figure out what that means when we talk about that. We have to really think about the apprenticeships. There is a reality that I know exists. I hate this, but it's a reality. There are other cities in this region who will take advantage of this. And they will call another auto dealer, another supermarket, another restaurant, because I do the same thing. I say, come to LA, come to the first district. I'm going to get you your permits. I'm going to help you set up your business. I'm going to waive you your sidewalk dining, and I'm going to make sure you can paint a mural on the side so that a bunch of people come and love it, right? But there's other people who are going to say, come to Burbank, come to Glendale, come to Montebello, right? Come to all our bordering cities, and they're going to say, no minimum wage increase, right? And it's going to be difficult. We need supermarkets, right? I mean, I like all the garden planting and all that stuff, but let me tell you, my main strategy for food deserts is a supermarket. And so we have to listen. I'm glad Ron Fong is here, and I applaud him for making the trip down here. We have to pay attention to that, to what happens when we have a service economy that's restaurants and low-wage jobs and entry-level jobs, if they move across the street. And it's happened. You know, I used to eat at Barragon's every week. They're gone, right? I don't want Abeja to leave. You know, and these places and these families, that will happen. And so we have to think about what happens if it's not regional, right? If it's not regional, and how we deal with that. Because it will have an impact on us.
Senator.
And then I think finally, I thank you, I know. I don't know what a small business is. I ran Local 660. We had 65 employees. We went to about 100, 125 when I left. Is that a small business? Medium-sized business? Is it 300? Is it 500? Or is it just 25? I don't know. But all those things need to be asked and answered so that we can come up with a solution that fits the uniqueness of Los Angeles. They're right. The study of Los Angeles is unique and special because we are unique and special. And I think the most special moment is that all of us are here. If we can step back a little bit and listen to each other, that we can have the answers to those questions, and that we can raise LA in a way that works for all of LA. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank all my colleagues for their insightful comments, and I want to thank all of you who came out to testify one way or the other, or just to observe and take part. Today our focus has been on advancing the study of our proposed citywide minimum wage. And it's important to have this kind of civic engagement around any decision that we make, and so we welcome your presence here. The deepest impact would be for residents who are here today, despite working hard at one time. Many times they're working 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. We can't dispute a lot of things, but the minimum wage today no longer covers the basic necessities of life, and so it really needs to be increased. I signed on to this minimum wage motion because I believe wholeheartedly that raising the wages will have a powerful impact on the quality of life for hundreds of thousands of Angelinos. By the same token, our collective neighborhoods as well. We know that hard-working men and women see more money in their paychecks. When they see more money in their paychecks, it isn't going to go to Wall Street. It's going to come to Main Street. It's going to be shopped locally in our stores and restaurants. Today, we heard from a lot of business owners and representatives of business community who expressed real concerns about increasing the minimum wage. As a former business owner, I know that there are challenges that lie ahead, but I see the potential for real gain. That's why today we're not only laying the groundwork for this policy, much of this discussion does lie ahead, and we're going to really create a new framework for how we address income equality and economic development, community economic development in our communities. We want to continue to hear from folks across the city, and we're going to do all we can to expand this discussion and make sure that we hear all points of view. But with that said, I'd like to make the following recommendations, members, without any objections. 1, I'd like to continue both items. 2, I'd like to instruct the CLA and the CAO's Office of Economic Analysis to issue a request for proposals to procure a contract for an independent study within 30 days, the study to be completed by February the 1st, 2015, and to include the following scope for the study on minimum wage increases. A, how to raise the minimum wage after 2017 to $15.25 an hour by 2019, to be followed by annual increases based on the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers for the Los Angeles metropolitan area, which is published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. B, provide a full analysis of the economic impact of this proposal, including both the positive and negative impacts on the city. C, provide an analysis of the proposal's effects on the local economy, including the number of people who will benefit from an increased wage and the potential for additional tax revenues. D, provide an analysis of unintended consequences, including the reduction of worker benefits and hours. E, provide an analysis of job creation and job business retention. F, evaluate the pros and cons of categorical exemptions or other creative mitigations for specific industries, including nonprofits and small businesses. G, provide an analysis for the establishment of a cap or ceiling on automatic wage increases. And H, provide a comparison of cost of living, demographics, and median wage in the city of LA versus other metropolitan areas. And 3, instruct the CLA and with the assistance of the CAO to identify funding in the first financial status report for this independent study. And members, unless there is an objection or amendment, that will be the order.
Mr. Chair, are we in essence combining the two matters?
Correct. Okay. So we have one study coming back.
Right. Okay.
Mr.
The one thing I note is that this proposal seems only to study the $15.25 proposal by 2019, I think, or after, yes, by 2019. Mm-hmm. I would ask that the same analysis also include the original proposal by the mayor that's contained in the first motion of 13.25 by 2017 as part of that analysis as well, so that, because the time frame matters, and I think that was the original point of the first motion, to include that first threshold. And I think many of the people who came and spoke today are concerned about that threshold and its analysis as well. So if we could include both of those proposals so that we can compare something when it comes back, I think that would be helpful.
Is there any objection to that? All right, that will be the order. This meeting is adjourned. Oops, sorry, hold on. We have general public comments. General public comments from Antonia Ramirez.
I'm sorry, general comments? I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I'd like to add two wonderful LA City employees who deserve a pay raise, and that is Officer Morris and Officer Marco Duarte, and our LA City chopper pilots, fire department, etc. And having said that, I hope that you will consider employing first and foremost our pilots and military veterans. Many of them are ready, willing, and able to get a job. They desperately need help, and we owe it to them. God bless the United States of America and our military. And again, please stop hiring these illegal wetbacks and gangbangers, and don't create a space of hostility, please. You're inviting that. Don't do that.
Thank you for your comments.
Nip it in the bud.
Thank you for your comments. This meeting is adjourned.